We're ready?
We're
Okay.
ready. We're ready for game two. Let's go to it. Go ahead and finish your point, though. I want to hear it.
Now, as we have Dragon China now chosen, I just wanted to talk a bit more about like HGC in general. So keep in mind that there is the open division where everybody can participate, and you guys can also gain a slot to potentially play in HGC yourself. But I also want to give a quick shout out to the amateur scene. And we were talking about the European amateur scene, and you've never played in any competitive setup. Maybe you don't have 4 friends that are willing to commit time-wise to practice with you guys on a weekly basis and play in open division, then make sure that you head over to heroeslaunch.gg. That's the biggest amateur scene that we have in Europe. It's a massive league where as an individual player you can get matched with other individual players, form a team, and then play on a weekly basis. And if you've never experienced Heroes that way, then make sure that you do, because it's really the way the game is supposed to be played, that you have like-minded players that have a bit of a competitive edge to them, competitive interest, that want to talk about drafts, want to talk about meta in general, and want to also improve as a team. So if you've never seen that, head over to heroeslaunch.gg and check it out, and maybe one day you'll even play in open division. And who knows, make it into HGC.
It's one of the best learning moments, honestly, playing with a 5-stack and knowing what exactly your teammates want to do and trying to figure out how to empower them. You find situations like, wait a minute, this actually works.
Yeah, and you get a whole new appreciation for the pro teams.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden, it's always easy when you're sitting back home and you look at drafts and you talk about the choices. But if you are all of a sudden in the position where in a competitive setup you have to draft, that's very, very different. And you see where all of these problems all of a sudden lie.
But Caldor, how does a pro player miss so many Ring of Frost? I've hit 2 on the minion waves that I have in my lane. It's easy to hit.
Oh, Ring of Frost is such a fantastic tool for wave clear.
Yeah.
I really, really like it.
Rain of Vengeance is insane for breaking down turrets. You should definitely spam it whenever it comes off cooldown.
Yeah. Like, my favorite thing is also just like to Dragon Blade a wave, because, I mean, it just disappears. It's gone so easily, so quickly.
Water Dragon is amazing because you can't cast it unless a hero's nearby. Things like that. You can learn. That's right. We got you here at HGC. Please delete the last 30 seconds if you plug them to come to the stream, okay? Because we don't want people to be too confused, okay?
Yeah,
that was sarcastic, Caldor and Trickster.
Context is important here.
All right, so Stukov, wow, actually getting banned out first. Method taking it away.
And that's also Method taking it to a bit of another level here with this entire dynamic that we have through priorities. Garrosh very high, Stukov now even ending up being banned out. But it also shows us Leftovers is banning Maiev, and that's interesting. Actually, not so much. The interesting part about the ban on Maiev is that Method failed a bit at the Western Clash to respect Maiev enough, and they banned out every single game, with showcased that they didn't have someone that felt comfortable enough to play Maiev. I would have expected this to change since then, so the ban on the Leftover side makes sense. But can I just say that I love the double pick on the Leftover side?
Yeah, they go straight into Medivh and Sonya. Immediate pressure on the battleground, being able to work together and find targets and go for an aggressive play. And here's the thing, too, with Stukov being banned out, that aggressive play will be rewarded. There were many times when ETC got caught out barely and got blown up. That option now suddenly isn't as easy here for Method with them not having that Stukov.
Also, what I really like about the way that they are currently shaping the draft is they have really snappy picks. That doesn't necessarily tell us that they are correct in what they prioritize, but it tells us that they have a very clear idea of what they are going for. So they have said, if we get a shot at Medivh Sonya, we snap pick that immediately. This is our core. This is what we really want here. And once that Method started to ban out Malfurion, this was their get-go. Now,
I like new Leftovers, man.
Yeah, I really, so far I really enjoy it. I mean, again, they might lose the game here, but the confidence and having a clear idea of what they're trying to do, I like that a lot. So Method is going for the setup that we've seen several times today. We have Malfurion, we have ETC, so you go for your slide through, and ooh, Leftovers taking 63% of the vote at this point.
You guys at home believe in them.
I mean, guys, don't get me wrong, like, I think they're doing really well here, but we're still talking about the number 4 team, actually number 3 at the 2 even.
Yeah, number 2 team versus the number 7.
Yeah,
there
at this point. So
numbers!
Currently at the standings, I couldn't remember, like, which place they currently take. But yeah, so still, Malfurion ETC, the combo being used again. Question for me is, what does Method do in terms of bans? Because they could theoretically try and target even supports if they wanted to.
Do you have to consider Diablo ban here?
I would definitely think about a Diablo ban, and this is what we've seen yesterday a lot. But Method could also say, hey, we already have Malfurion, we banned out Stukov, we know they like to play Rhaegar, let's ban out Rhaegar. Then they will most likely head into Uther. Can we play around that? Is there a way for us to exploit that a bit?
Is there a world where we maybe get that Johanna coming in there? Leftovers seem to enjoy her in the first couple of weeks, or you think they've fallen out of that phase of playing her so much?
I mean, Garrosh is still around.
That's true.
So I would rather like them to go for Garrosh. We talked about portals into a Garrosh taunt, for example. That's another fantastic tool that you can use if you're on the leftover side. So I feel the 2 priority potential bans on the side of leftovers. Even though I could see them try and target tanks, I think it has to be tank line. I'm surprised that they are opting for Genji here. I would have thought that they ban either Diablo or Garrosh. Diablo because of Medivh, Leyline, Seal, and Apocalypse, and Garrosh because of Portal into the Taunt, and also, of course, all the utility that he adds.
At first, they weren't thinking tanks, hovering a couple of assassins like Greymane and Genji, but they decided to finally land on a Nubarag ban here.
It's interesting to me because Leftovers hasn't played a Nubarag once. And granted, they haven't played Garrosh. Actually, they played Garrosh once. But even if they had never played Diablo, even if they had never played Garrosh, those are the 2 tanks that are currently right in the meta. But it's the Johanna that you talked about earlier.
And the Rhaegar that you talked about earlier. Coming back for Leftovers, going back to some comfort heroes.
The Rhaegar doesn't surprise me at all. Johanna, even though she can be strong, is something where I would have expected them to go for either a Diablo Medivh composition or to try and exploit the utility of Garrosh.
Yeah, I'm starting to think here, what do they go for damage? That allows them to use that Johanna in the wave clear. Zeratul comes out.
So, sorry.
Oh, well, Zeratul, well, I was thinking Mage, possibly for Johanna, to help follow up a combos. Jaina could be okay here, but suddenly that Zeratul makes it much harder to go into a Mage.
The thing for me is really, like, keep in mind how consistent Dignitas was yesterday when they played against Team Liquid to ban out Diablo every single time that they saw on the other side, hey, there's a Medivh. Every time. So it surprises me a bit that they go for Johanna, but this has to be one of the priority picks with just personal preference for Lauber. Johanna is still strong. We've seen her played by JPL. We've seen, especially on Tomb of the Spider Queen, also Method play her. But in the setup that they have with Medivh, would have expected that. On the other hand, Johanna has Iron Skin. You have already Medivh. It's going to be really tough to get the kills here.
Li Ming will be the one that's pretty vulnerable here, but with Rhaegar and Medivh to help her out, should be alright. And Sonya, don't laugh at her damage too much too. If she's able to get in that back line and have that support from Rhaegar as well, should be able to start chunking out some heroes, especially even that Zeratul. A spear into a slam, suddenly his health has been chunked down to half health. So Zeratul looks like he'll be in that top lane here. Junkrat helping out with the wave clear. I don't know, whose draft do you like more?
It's a bit rough to say, but I think both of them have great tools. But from a top lane perspective, Leftovers definitely have the better shot here. They also don't have Genji that can simply move to the top and help out. I think we're probably going to see Junkrat at the top and Zeratul just roaming and trying to look for kills. That could also be a possibility, even though normally I would have said it's going to be Zeratul.
Sure.
But it feels the pressure is going to be heavier on the top lane if Junkrat takes the lane and occasionally Zeratul comes in and tries to put the pressure on Sonya. But it's going to be an interesting game. I think Shrimpy is probably on Zeratul, I assume, and he needs to really make sure that he has a big impact. Because, again, I think the tilt potential on their side is insane right now.
Let's head to game number 2 here. On the left side, in the blue, a Thorough on ETC, Cursor on Malfurion, Shrimpy on Hanzo, Nick on Junkrat, and Arcaner on Zeratul.
Yeah, Arcaner on Zeratul, it makes a little bit more sense. And to the right side, the Leftovers, Blakitny on Medivh, linked on his Bay on Rhaegar, Polyboss and Sonya, Lauber on Johanna, and a DAB on Li Ming.
So, watching Sonya versus Zeratul in the top lane is always an interesting struggle between the two. Zeratul brings mobility, but Sonya brings the raw strength, and it's all about whether or not someone comes in to gank that top lane. But the top lane, I feel like won't have too many ganks from Leftovers unless Medivh decides to abandon his team and head up there. Whereas Method can have that Junkrat factor, maybe come around and try to protect as Sonya attempts to disengage.
Also, there is an insane amount of poke available for Method. With Hanzo and with Junkrat, you can just poke this composition of Leftovers into oblivion. But once Leftovers make the choice to go for a snap engage, they definitely have a lot of pressure behind them. With Sonya creating a lot of space for Li Ming to fire the volleys and combos off, if the AAB lands a good one, he should be able to make the reset happen for this team. So it's going to be an interesting game, but it's definitely a very different map from BOE, just simply because the coordination and the way you look at map control is completely different here.
It's really hard to pull ahead on this battleground with the two shrines have to be under control consistently. So yeah, typically when it comes to this battleground, especially when we saw earlier during Toss and Fnatic facing off, you don't see those dragons until level 8, level 10, where they're trying to force an issue that might surprise your opponent. Now, this is what I was expecting to see here from Leftovers, a little bit more control in the night camps, and of course the Giants with Rhaegar being in the mix. And they'll clear that top camp pretty easily in the top right, which should allow for Sonya to be quite a pain in the rear against that Zeratul.
It also was the Medivh factor that came into play here again, because HGC was basically just saying, "Hello boys, what you doing?" And Medivh was just sitting there, it's like, "Yeah, if you want to, you can really try and contest this, because we know perfectly well that you're all alone at this point." So Vision just absolutely dominant tool here once again. And keep in mind, when you talk about Sonya and how she can go for these camps early, she doesn't even have access to her level 4 tail and battle rage yet. So that's going to be popping in soon, and then we're probably going to see her rotate even more aggressively towards those camps when available.
Speaking of being aggressive, taking that shrine on the top that Zeratul was attempting to sneak away. Arcana and Nick will clear that out pretty easily, but the bottom side is where the main point of action is at. The Leftovers stepping forward, 3 on 2. Should be doing well with this Hanzo though, staying away and trading out pretty well. But the main point is that the Giants were able to be taken over by Leftovers, so now they have a little bit of a push happening here.
Zeratul is sneaking to the top because he wants the shrine, since the pressure is now on Method, and he's going to get it. Sonya starting to make her way back in. But down here, DAB is still waiting to put some pressure onto... It's actually really smart. Like he fires his volley so that he's always hitting something, either the hero or the tower. So none of the combos go to waste. He always does at least some damage, and as he hits Shrimpy, he just chunks him down to half HP.
Yeah, he's been doing a really good job on top of that, of making sure to also drop a spell on top of those regen globes. So if you want to step up and grab those for your team, you at least take some damage somewhere. DAB delivering on that Li Ming. Lauber working on the middle, just trying to soak it up. But the main point up here on the top has been Leftovers, really keeping Sonya and Medivh in this area. I thought Medivh would be sharking around a little bit more, but they seem to be really wanting to bully out this Zeratul.
Yeah, and they are going for Lauber once again, but they're not going to get him here. Zeratul is reclaiming the top shrine again as Link is starting to move down bot. Curson, good route, but Aethera is a bit too far away to follow up on it. And as expected, if you put Zeratul onto the top lane and not Junkrat, as we've seen way back when, you just are going to lose the lane. If there are no rotations happening, Zeratul against Sonya is just not a favorable matchup for the assassin.
Definitely helps out though. Later on when 10 hits, that Void Prison coming online, that Greater Cleave build starting to hit too. If your opponents group up too much, you can definitely punish, especially if you fall up into that Dragon Zero stun that we've seen in the past.
Yeah, Pody Boss also now in play again, and you can already see one of the towers is really low. That's where he can pick experience up. He knows that there's going to be a move, so he immediately starts going in. Actually, he's nice. I like that. Pody Boss realizes that there's no vision, and he moves back. And we already had ETC and Junkrat waiting in the bushes here. So a really cool play on his part, just making sure that without vision, he doesn't engage, he doesn't overextend, and yeah, that saved his life.
I just love seeing a team progress as much as we've seen here from Leftovers.
Yeah.
They were known in the open division for having some of the better macro in the open division, and then they came to the HGC, and the macro just wasn't quite meeting up. They were losing out a couple of kills, starting to fall behind. And right now, this macro and this progress they had, it's just so full on display there. Pody Boss, realizing he was in a spot where he could have gotten in trouble, does not overstep his bounds and lets his team grab an advantage somewhere else. And small things like that, it just shows they're coming together as a team, and they're not 5 individual players.
In Heroes, it's really important that you think about the choices that you make quite a lot, and you take all the information that you gain through the minimap and through information that your team provides you with into account. And we see that very little in an Hero League environment where communication is not quite on top of what we're seeing here. But in this setup, Leftovers definitely improved heavily. Lauber is in trouble though. Like, he needs to be super careful here. He gets a shield, there's the slide, but he doesn't have Iron Skin, and that's his demise. He goes down, the portal is not enough, but in the meantime, Sonya has been doing damage up to the top, and we've already seen those 2 Siege Giants scratch the fort at least a little bit.
You know, poking that fort on the side there. The Iron Skin getting used early, and the patience for Method to be able to kite with that Johanna. Also, the portal from Medivh was a little optimistic.
But I still think it's worth it for them, because they stole the Siege Time camp away. It did a bit of damage against the fort, that was already worth it. And during the entire time, as Johanna falls, Sonya's at the top lane pushing the wall in. So they end up with an experience advantage, because outside of the kill, it didn't mean... Method didn't get anything else out of the kill but the kill itself. So they couldn't really put any additional pressure onto a lane, take a structure down, steal a camp away or anything along those lines.
And that experience lead is about to be on full display with 10 about to hit here. Method needs to decide if they want to make a play, and they go for one in the middle. They're looking for that Johanna to soak in the lane, but Medivh comes over to assist. Lauber, Lightning Key, can look towards grabbing this dragon.
Yeah, Lauber is at this point aggressively trying to create some space for the team, but Zeratul is moving into the mid lane now since they realize they have to protect this somehow. DAB, here comes the Blessed Shield, they're starting to go in, Glyph has been used as well, but a lot of cooldowns burned with very little effect, and Hanzo is already capping the Shrine to the bot lane to relieve the pressure here in the middle, as Method is closing in and getting the level 10 ability themselves.
Good delay there from Method. As you mentioned, the Shrine grab to the south, should be backs up too, just in time to make sure he doesn't get caught out of position. Only Blessed Shield really used. We also had the Heroic used for Medivh, but that should be up relatively soon here. It's going to be that Polybomb.
Yeah, Lauber here again. Be careful, no shield used yet. There we have it. Sonya with the pressure placed to the top. Zeratul is really having a tough time top lane. If there was another hero around that is just mobile enough to help out on the solo lane every now and then, that would make the life of Zeratul easier, but Sonya is dominating that lane heavily, and that's a problem for Method, or will be in the long run at least.
I'm watching Zeratul, because he keeps him in the middle lane too. And finally, Junkrat's can go to the top side. Method deciding that they need to clear out this wave ASAP. Sony just dominating a little bit too much. Scatter Arrow quest also finishing here for Hanzo as it continues to finish out his Scatter Arrow build. I'm watching Zeratul because I feel like Zeratul is going to be the wild card here for Method that gets them into a spot where they're able to win a team fight. That Void Prison is so important. Mosh Pit being used here. Medivh actually in a spot where he gets picked off. Potibus comes in to try and drop an Ancient Spear to interrupt it, but it actually gets tanked by a teammate.
Yeah, and that also resets the stacks on the quest talent for Medivh, so that's another big issue here. And that comes at a time, counter kill against Hanzo though, and that's an important one. I was just about to say, that comes at a time when leftovers have actually put on the pressure to Method and were about to grab a Dragon Knight. So that was a really nice relief move from the blue team, but they lose Hanzo, and that's now an issue. Because we've been talking a lot about the top lane, and one of the results from Sonya dominating that lane is that the wall has been broken, and there's no fountain at the top anymore. So that's a big issue, since you're going to lose that consistently. And look what we have now. Now we have Junkrat on the lane. I would have liked that a lot earlier. That's what I said in the early stages. Junkrat isn't really on that solo lane as much as he was when he just came into the game, but I really feel in the setup it would have been advantageous for them to have Junkrat on the solo lane and then try to rotate Zeratul up every now and then to put the extra pressure on the Sonya and make the solo lane more difficult for leftovers.
Method is trying to make the top lane pretty difficult right now as they put 3 to the top. They have to, as Medivh's been hanging around here. Consistently being quite annoying, checking out that bush so Potibus can control that top side, but with 3 finally being here, leftovers are opened up to grabbing Giants or even looking to get a kill, and they still have a few more cooldowns here over the Malfurion ETC. Malfurion's Twilight Dream is up in 5, Mosh Pit not up for 30, so Lauber can step forward and maybe drop that Blessed Shield.
Yeah, Poison Spear hits Junkrat at the top lane. Zeratul is coming in, and so is Medivh though. So we have, again, control taken by leftovers. The level 13 talent hit a bit earlier for them. It gave them a slight advantage, and they were willing to use that as a reason to initiate fights and start things up. Aethero is also getting poked on ETC. It's a very, very cool game that we're seeing here right now. And both of the teams are just looking for opportunities. We are 9 minutes in, and we only have seen 3 kills. Great move again, linked with the immediate Ancestral Healing as DAB was hit by the Hanzo arrow, but no kills. And just very nice plays that we see from the two teams from a strategical point of view, and especially talking about rotations. Hanzo even got the camp at the bot lane.
Yeah, Hanzo shot that Dragon's Arrow from that bottom camp while he was clearing it, so pretty impressive that he hit that. Cleanse had to be used, as you mentioned, the Ancestral Healing, so a lot of cooldowns burned for leftovers just to stay alive. Medivh's Polybomb will be up in about 15 seconds, and there's still that Mosh Pit and Twilight Dream. So Method has a chance here to go look for that fight. Also, something else to note, Sarkaner didn't even use the Void Prison. I thought he may have dropped it there, tried to grab the Rhaegar and the Leeming. So Method still has a fight available.
We had 10 minutes into the game and we haven't seen a Dragon Knight yet. Both of the teams just rotating the entire time. One rotation after another. And now Potibus up here. Needs to be cautious. Goes in with a spear, misses that, and goes straight through the portal. But Dragon Knight couldn't be captured in the mid lane. Bottom shrine has been taken by leftovers. The top now recaptured by Method in just this constant rotating. If anyone gets a kill now, it should give them the edge to maybe claim the first objective of the game. But the pressure is more so on Method than it is on leftovers.
The tug of war Dragonshire on full display. And both teams right now seem to be of equal strength. The Giants finally bring the turret down towards the south side, but no major advantage here for the leftovers. They just barely hit level 15. Sonya is actually starting to rotate down towards this middle lane, possibly looking for a fight. Medivh will show that there is a trap there, and Sonya will just go ahead and eat that.
Yeah, at the same time, mounted archery on level 13 for Shrimpy is really going to allow him to rotate very quickly between lanes and through positions. So it makes it a bit easier for them to react to whatever leftovers is doing on the map.
And that's why you saw him earlier, down at that Dragon Knight.
Yeah.
He knew that, or the Dragon, or gosh, the Knight camped. If he needed to escape, just jump over the wall, mount away. Arcana in a spot here, taking some damage.
And that's a problem, because now both of the shrines are under control of leftovers, but Nick is there to reclaim the top. If he wouldn't have been in position already, that damage output against Zeratul would have been a massive issue that could have led to the first Dragon Knight for leftovers. But again, they are the ones pressuring here. Leftovers is the team that really gives Method an extremely hard time now. Even though Method seems to be going into level 16 just a second or two faster than Leftovers. But this is such a close game.
That it is. 16's about to hit 2 as Leftovers are close to landing that. Sonya takes the top, but at the same time, Hanzo grabs the bottom. Shrimpy just not leaving this bottom lane, just waiting for an opportunity to take it back. And he's done it a few times now.
12 minutes in and no Dragon Knight. 3 kills, level 16. The engage up here, and that could be the kill. Nick is able to get away. A lot of cooldowns burned again. No big ones, but still, and nearly Junkrat falling, but he's able to move out. Both of these just at each other's throat the entire time, looking for a kill, and now maybe a Thero here with an opening.
Polyboss grabbing the Night Camp too. With the Junkrat backing up for a little bit to heal on up, they assume they can grab the Night Camp, get that pushing in, and try to offset the lanes once again with the Knights. But gosh, no team is really overstepping their bounds at all.
Blickidney, by the way, is on 6 stacks on his Medivh quest. So with him dying earlier, he lost an insane amount. I think he was at 24 or 28 even. And so just a little bit before completing it, he died. And now we're seeing them at 6. So he has a very rough time getting those stacks in.
I've been wondering when Zeratul doesn't come in and start to force these fights, this Void Prison here, and I think now is the time with that Void Slash coming online for level 16. That's when this Q build really starts to chunk. If you can land 2 to 3 people together and land that Q, you get that 50% increased damage and you reduce the cooldown, and it starts to chunk. And that gets even better at level 20. You get the healing for the spell damage that you do. Yeah,
and up here to the top, Polyboss again trying to maintain the shrine control. Arcana still in position, but they are aggressively moving down to the bottom here. And yes, Shrimpy is able to move away, but there's always some additional pressure on the structures. If you look at the situation, Method has lost most of the fountains here, and there's the silence. Oh, but Medivh again. Blickidney is just not having the game that he really wants here for the second time dying. And again, reset on the stacks. Granted, he didn't have too many in the first place here, but that is now a massive lead for Method that could spell Dragon Knight.
A really aggressive play by him. He did get Twilight Dream. There's a Dragon Arrow coming out. Ooh, just barely missing out on Lobber. So they should be able to delay here in the middle, but can they delay long enough? Still 25 seconds for Medivh to pop up. Sonya's trying to grab that top lane, but having a hard time as Junkrat's being quite annoying.
Barely. Arcana barely interrupted, and once again they are moving in. Sonya's taking the top. The question is, can they move out here? And that might not be the case. Ancestral is ready though, so worst case they have to drop it. Roots are on the ground. Ancestral comes through. There's the slide, and Lauba is able to get away. Wow.
Still a lot burn from both teams there. Podius goes back straight into Junkrat, but Nick will just jump away. Junkrat being the annoying
But the rotation is coming from everyone else. Athero is moving in now, and Medivh is back, but they need to converge into the middle again. They need to make sure that they interrupt Hanzo, and Johanna is there. Medivh is on the way to the bot lane, so he's going to recapture the bot. So for now, leftovers are still holding. And here comes the Void Prison, and that's the Dragon Knight.
There it is. Johanna and Papyrus is going to try to escape. Athero is doing his best here to block. And the Dragon Knight will punt Johanna to the back left corner into turret range, and it seems like Method should be able to clean this up, or can they? Portal comes out, and Blickidney will save Johanna. But still, the Dragon, it remains.
That is the lead that they wanted, and it was a perfect Void Prison because Medivh was already on the point. Even with a Void Prison, it was clutch. But this Dragon Knight is going to do work, and this is also the one tool that they will use to get to level 20 faster. 3 kills against 1. And again, especially Medivh is having a rough time. We've seen great plays out of Blickidney, but he also died twice. 2 out of these 3 kills that we see for Method were against him.
Leftovers need to get to Li Ming on top of this dragon here, with that mirror ball at level 16 helping to clear it up. But the issue is that a thorough Arcana and Curson are pushing on the bottom lane, stressing out the resources that Leftovers have. And so now they've put Li Ming down there to defend against that, and the fort in the middle fell because of it. That experience hike jumps up to 19.25, and they're going to get more here as this fort easily goes down. Yeah,
the fort is going to go down, and as we said before, the level 20 is going to be close. So Leftovers, they have one job now, and that job is getting XP, XP, XP. It's from their perspective, it's really a bit annoying because they are the ones that throughout the entire game put on the pressure against Method. They were the ones always, like over and over again, being in control of 2 shrines, threatening the Dragon Knight, and also pushing every single lane. They took out most of the walls, they eliminated the fountains, they put pressure onto the forts, but it is very much to what we saw in game number 1 on their side. Method was bending but not breaking, and at this point they got the Dragon Knight, and they are now the ones calling the shots here with the level 20 talent advantage.
Now with that being said, the Dragon only got 2 forts. There's still a keep wall up on the bottom right corner, so Method is setting up to break that down. They got the Knight Camp and a giant push to do so, but Leftovers themselves are at 19.25 experience. If they can hold on here, be willing to give up this wall, they'll hit 20 themselves.
Yeah, the problem is if someone dies, as for example DAB, who got chunked pretty heavily by Arcana and of course also Hanzo, then it's going to be a big issue. Sonya is getting the cams, but Arcana is just looking for these kills the entire time, and DAB is playing very well around it, but there's now a spell aura, and how do you deal with this? So they're trying to move in with Sonya, immediately setting the portal up, but the roots are also on the ground. They push back and they are able to save the keep for now, but Method is very aggressive in their positioning here.
That they are. They will defend here, though, with the spell finally getting cleaned up and the Knight Camp pushing the top. Method has to respect that, and they're going to peel on back and start to deal with this minion wave. 20 right around the corner here for Leftovers, and we're in. Shadow Mending picked up by that Zeratul, by the way, to finish out this build. This is probably one of the most popular builds as of late, so take a gander if you want. Trying it out in your own game. It's mostly about poking, jumping into a fight with that wormhole.
There's a 20 now. And also with the keep having taken damage at the bot lane on Leftover side, this is also a potential opening later on where we could see Method try and end the game if they get another Dragon Knight. Boss gets pressured here. Medivh again, saving him for now. Medivh is back at 8 stacks, by the way. And we're now seeing, of course, also with the level 20, the indestructible for Johanna. And when we talk about Medivh, not going into the glyph, but the Guardian of Tristfall here. So trying to get minions and catapult, just wave clear in general.
Trippy can continue to play the style that he's been playing too, where he kind of just holds down this bottom lane with that play of the game at level 20. He kind of has a pseudo-global. He'd be able to jump into a fight if he needs to, if he has enough of a heads up. Ooh, a Twilight Dream, was that trying to be used? No, okay, I'm sorry. It sounded like a Twilight Dream was going to be used, but it will get a Void Prison as Arcaner comes in from the side, drops down a cleave, gets DAB, there's a VP, and we have the Dragon's Arrows out. Can this portal be enough?
Yeah, needs to go to nice Ancestral. The Wash Pit is great, but can they move out? They should be able to move away from this, but Li Ming is still falling. Great play here. Kidney done his best to keep them alive. Lauba is now trying to re-engage as Nick is already low, and it's just fight after fight. Lauba already popping his 20. Needs to be careful and on the way back out, but Link is also under pressure. Boss up at the front, trying to see if maybe he can get a counter kill with a quick spear and a smash. Not quite happening for him. Link barely moving out. Boss kept away from the portal, tries to move through, but there's no shield available. And even Rhaegar is dying. Hanzo once again delivering.
Arcaner also showing off this cleave build and how dangerous it can be, putting both Li Ming low and Sonya at the same time. Final kill comes in, and that's going to be 3 down. Johanna and Medivh set up for defense. Can they handle this push coming in from Method? It's not looking like it as they step forward and look to get the core. Yeah, Shrimpy definitely paying attention to the geometry lessons in school back then, and he is using all that knowledge to kill Rhaegar and initiate potentially the end of the game. But 10 seconds until Li Ming is back. The core, on the other hand, is already falling as the leftovers are starting to drop here. Kidney is still alive, saving himself for now. Lauba disrupting wherever he can, using the shield once more. Here's Li Ming, but the core is down to 40%, and Medivh is also dead. The combos come out, but it's gonna be too late. Lauba dying and Johanna gone means that only Li Ming is still in play. And this is the end of game number 2 as Method takes the victory.